Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll give you 1 second to guess where we are. No, it's not Brighton.
No, it's not Biffo Circus either.
So,
it's the London Eye, in case you don't know.
Oh yeah, of course, in case. So, we've just done a little run.
Hence the attire.
Yeah, and we're starting a new thing. It's called...
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Okay, so no, we're not. Anyway.
Run, read, run. I mean, come on.
3 R's, run, read, run. So we'll run. We just ran 3K. Now we're going to read. And then we're going to run back. Maybe, if we feel like it.
And
there's a squirrel here.
Oh my God! It's gonna. If it jumps on me, I'm. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
It's gonna climb up on the tripod. Okay, come on, let's read.
No, because here I don't know about where you guys are, but here the squirrels are brutal.
They're not brutal.
No, they run. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Is it 3rd canto, chapter 25, text
31.
31. I'm reading from the phone because I didn't run with my book, because that's not what you do. Alright. 31. Now I'm on 30. Oh my God. Alright. My dear son Kapila. This is Devahuti speaking.
No, you've done something. That's it. You get it.
Oh.
31.
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's too much technology.
It doesn't scroll up because you're on books, it's pages.
31. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose, and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of devotional service and mystic realization as received by disciplic succession. Text 32. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Wow, there you go. That's an interesting thought. Usually we're getting all fried with the mind, but the mind actually is a symbolic representation of Krishna.
Wow.
Okay. What's that? Actually, it says, so the mind is the representative, not a representation. My bad. It's a representative of the Supreme. Okay, go ahead.
The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motivation, that
without
is
any
far,
motive.
Oh, without any motive. Well,
it's different.
That is far better even than salvation. Purport. The senses of the living entity are always engaged in some occupation, either in activities prescribed in the injunctions of the Vedas or in material activities. The natural inclination of the senses is to work for something, and the mind is the center of the senses. The mind is actually the leader of the senses, therefore it is called sattva. Similarly, the leader of the senses...
Leader of the demigods.
Oh, I've lost my space now. My mind's all over the place. Alright, similarly... Similarly, the leader of all the demigods who are engaged in the activities of this material world, the sun god, moon god, Indra and others, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, anything?
No.
Alright. So it's explaining, actually the mind is the leader of the senses, and it's called sattva, which means goodness, because the mind's actual natural disposition is in service and to be in the mode of goodness, which is ironic. And the leader of all the demigods is Krishna. So that, in that sense, the senses equal the demigods, and the mind, which is the lord of the senses, equals Krishna, who is the lord of the demigods. It is stated in the Vedic literature that the demigods are different limbs of the universal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our senses are also controlled by different demigods. Our senses are representations of various demigods, and the mind is the representation, now it says representation instead of representative, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses, led by the mind, act under the influence of the demigods. When the service is ultimately aimed at the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the senses are in their natural position. The Lord is called Rishikesh, for he is actually the proprietor and ultimate master of the senses. The senses and the mind are naturally inclined to work, but when they are materially contaminated, they work for some material benefit or for the service of the demigods. Actually, they are meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses are called Rishik, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Rishikesh. Indirectly, all the senses are naturally inclined to serve the Supreme Lord. That is called Bhakti. Very nice explanation. So the senses naturally want to work, the mind naturally wants to work. When they're inclined materialistically, they come under the purview of the demigods, but when they want to focus on service to Krishna, they come under the control of the Lord, who is Rishikesh, and that's called Bhakti.
Next paragraph. Kapila Dev said that when the senses, without desire for material profit or other selfish motives, are engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in devotional service. That spirit of service is far better than siddhi salvation. Bhakti, the inclination to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is in a transcendental position far better than mukti or liberation. Thus, bhakti is the stage after liberation. That was still me. Unless one is liberated, one cannot engage the senses in the service of the Lord. When the senses are engaged either in material activities of sense gratification or in the activities of the Vedic injunctions, there is some motive. But when the same senses are engaged in the service of the Lord and there is no motive, that is called animita, and that is the natural inclination of the mind. The conclusion is that when the mind, without being deviated either by Vedic injunctions or by material activities, is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is far better than the most aspired for liberation from material entanglement. I was thinking that's because ultimately you become peaceful and you become happy. So it doesn't matter therefore where you are, what you're doing, if the senses are so engaged, or otherwise you could be like, the most, like we see, don't we, the examples of really famous people, and people aspire to be like them, pop stars, film stars, and then when you read their biographies and when they're dead and you find out they were really miserable and they were addicted to this and that, because for them their mind and senses were just roaming and just like trying to gratify and trying to do this, and so many ambitions and desires. So it's not that for them they were at peace, but then you might find some simple person who does their little puja or bhakti or whatever and feels sheltered, and I give it all to Krishna and I'm fine with what I got, they're in a far more richer position, as it were. And that's what I understand, that is, it's far better than even like liberation, it says here, because really it is that. Someone might say the smallest thing and then that's it, you're done. Your whole day, your whole week, your whole year is over because I'm just not in control of it, Someone who's not in control of their senses is quite scary because they can beat you up at the moment's notice. Oh, it's true though, because they just can't
beat you up,
absorb it, And at the same time, things will trigger them. Envy, that person's someone's just joined the same workplace or the same, if you're doing some service, whatever, and it's like, oh, they're doing the same, they're doing it better, or But here comes another killer squirrel. I'm going to have to. These things don't, because they'll kill us, and then.
No, they won't. Okay, you done with your purport?
See, there I was talking about senses and control, and then I got agitated by this killer squirrel where's it gone? Oh my days.
Okay, text 33.
Oh my days! There it is on your bag!
Do it. Can you see it? No, you can't, unfortunately. Come on.
No, don't. sad as people taking pictures of it on the bag.
We can get him on my shoulder.
No, because then I'll be on that London Eye.
Okay, text 33. Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Now that's very powerful. Of course, most of us don't want any parts of us dissolved. He is in a far higher position than mukti because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process of his liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bilva Mangala Thakur explained this position very nicely. He said, quote, "If I have unflinching devotion unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then mukti, or liberation, serves me as my maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask." Interesting. So bhakti is higher than mukti. It's naturally dissolving away the false ego, the subtle body of the living entity, and just like fire, the fire of digestion dissolves whatever we put into it, hopefully. Some are slower or faster than others. And ultimately, bhakti, or rather mukti is the maidservant of one who is performing bhakti. So you already achieved mukti, you already achieved liberation, because liberation means to be liberated from the material modes and material energy. And if you're engaging in service, then you're liberated because you're engaging your mind and senses and your consciousness in the service of the Lord, which is a liberated state. Now, we may not be fully liberated or feel completely liberated, but basically we're on the path, as it were, and we're considered in that sense sort of liberated. Hare Krishna.
For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Bhakti is therefore far better than mukti, or the impersonist position. The impersonist undergoes severe penances and austerities to attain mukti, but the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and by accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of Godhead. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Dev that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, liberation.
Interesting. Like this point. About the tongue. So we say this prayer before we eat. Shadidar Vijaya Jonindriya Tayaka Jiva Phale Vishaya Sagare. The tongue is the most difficult of all the senses to engage, because the tongue has two services, or two functions. It's a Gyan Indriya, means that it's knowledge acquiring by taste. And it's a Karma Indriya, it's an action sense, because it produces sound vibration. None of the other senses have those two different functions. So therefore the tongue is the most difficult to control. It's the most voracious, as that prayer says. But by honoring prasad, which is always exciting and fun and wonderful, and everyone loves to do that, and by chanting Hare Krishna or speaking Krishna Katha, then we control the tongue. And then all the other senses, theoretically, should come under control. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, because it's very easy to hurt people with words, and it's
Good.
very cutting. And then out of all the senses, you know, even though, yeah, because the eyes can look at you, but you can give someone a dirty look or whatever. You know, you can listen to someone talking and hear some gossip, but you know, the tongue is a very powerful weapon, and it can really, yeah, destroy you. So it's very important to control it.
Yeah, and I guess from the other side, you can say things that are derogatory, negative, and hurt, or you can eat yourself senseless. And from the other side, we eat inappropriate things that make us unhealthy, right? That can actually hurt us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we? We text 34. It's a very long purport. What do we got for time? Maybe we just call it a brief one there,
Okay.
and we'll pick up again on another day. And just wanted to give a shout out to to all the devotees who are watching, and say thank you very much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And also, what else?
Have a lovely day.
Have a lovely day. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.